Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
In a world where shadows dance and dreams take flight through the veil of reality into the night, Rob McConnell leads the way, a beacon so bright. With over 35 years, he ignites the light. A voice from the north where whispers are bold, stories untold in the echoes of old. Fact meets fiction in this realm of delight, in the X Zone where dark turns to bright. Welcome to the X Zone, believe and be free, a sanctuary for truth that dare to be seen, where the line between realms gently blurs, in a symphony of voices the mind stirs, with Rob McConnell stories unfold, tales of the unknown that shimmer like gold.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the CanCom Broadcast Network and streaming around the world on classic1220.ca. If you would like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, it is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. That's my email address. But on all the social media sites, it's XZone Radio. And, of course, here we are. Another hour, another wonderful guest, just for you, the members of the worldwide X Zone Nation. My guest this hour, X Zone Nation, is Lura Ketchledge, and her website is luraketch.com. And, Lura, welcome back to the X Zone. For all our listeners meeting you for the very first time, who is Lura Ketchledge?
Well, Rob, I'm delighted to be on your show tonight. Thank you for the privilege. Who is Lura Ketchledge? I'd say a work in progress, a near-death experiencer, and an author.
Now, you're telling me before we went on air that you've just recently retired, I believe you said.
Well, I don't know if an author actually retires because there's thoughts and ideas always spinning like a tumble dryer in your mind about stories and things that you write. But for the most part, yes, well, I have retired.
Good for you. My wife, Laura, keeps asking me, Robbie, when are you going to retire? And my answer is the same thing. Honey, when are you going to stop spending money? I tell her that's cause and effect. You spend the money, that's the cause, and the effect is me having to work. And she said, oh, okay. I hope you enjoy working. I said, thank you, sweetheart.
You're a good husband.
I try my very best, believe me. What inspired you to begin your work that you're doing today? And you've done so much over the years. Tell us more about what you've done and what inspired you.
Well, it's funny, Rob. When I was a little girl, I used to watch the soap operas with my grandmother. She called them her stories. And I would always figure out the plot lines. And, I really had a good time doing that with her. I've always been interested in literature and movies, but I'm hopelessly dyslexic. And I'm a terrible speller. I never really thought of being a writer. I always had stories in my mind. And I used to tell them, when I would babysit kids,
right?
Which was fun. But it was after my near-death experience that, that shift, that core value shift. And later on, I was to actually dream my first novel. So I always say, if I hadn't had that horseback riding accident and been killed, I never would have become an author. So I have a little humor in there.
Your near-death experience, how old were you when you had it? And can you explain to us what happened during your journey off the horse into wherever it is we go when we die?
Yes, I can. I can describe it in words, but emotions, it's hard to vocalize the change or the experience. It started out a beautiful sunny day in Centerville, Virginia. I went horseback riding.
Right.
I was 19. I had just started to live. I had my first apartment, two boyfriends.
Whoa, wait a minute. Hold on here. Oh, hold on here. Two boyfriends. One for each hand? What the heck were you thinking, woman?
I wasn't married. I was single and I was 19.
I know, but okay, never mind. I can... God bless you.
I was just starting to live, and
I bet.
my
Two
gosh,
boyfriends.
I was, I can say now, I was a pretty girl. I was a model and bartending, and I just had, just was full of myself like most 19-year-olds are.
So
anyway,
you were a fox.
Past tense.
Oh, a fox never dies, honey. A fox never dies. Do you know what the difference between a fox and a dog is?
What?
5 Jack Daniels. All right, so much for the jokes. All right.
I like that.
You can use it.
Well, the thing is, I got a horse that was above my abilities. I knew better. I still did it. I like to ride horses fast. So anyways, I was riding very fast back to the barn, racing these two other people two men that I had met on the trail, and my horse.
Hold on here. Now, do you still have the two guys we were talking about before when you met these new guys on the trail?
Oh, it wasn't romantic. I just buddied up.
It never is.
It was never romantic
you
whatsoever.
just buddied up. Okay. All right, I'm getting a picture here. Come on, little fox.
I think they were more interested in each other, shall we say. Anyways.
Oh.
But they were very nice young men, and we decided to race our horses back to the barn because I'd been riding for a couple of hours, and my horse hit a golfer hole, and and stumbled, and I went face first down into a ditch with rocks.
Ooh.
But I never felt the impact, Rob.
Thank God.
I left my body. Well, I knew I was going to fall. I knew I was going to get clobbered. And I had that, you draw in your breath because you know you're going to be hurt.
I know that feeling exactly.
Oh, and you cannot avoid it.
Yep.
But I was catapulted into another dimension, and I never hit the ground, mercifully. And in a split second, I went from being a carefree teenager to being hurled through this velvet, dark tunnel. But I wasn't claustrophobic. I wasn't in pain. And I knew I was dead. So it was so dramatic. So I had a roller coaster of emotions, being like I had just started to live. How could this have happened if I only hadn't, And those thoughts went very, very fast in my mind, faster than you and I speaking. More, it's hard to comprehend how that range of emotions. And I was suddenly stopped, and there was my grandfather. He died when I was 12. I adored him. And still, even when I talk about it, 45 years later, I can get choked up because, it was such a relief to see him. He was like, the most wonderful person, and I knew I was safe with him. And it seems like part of me kind of let go of my life. Even though I was upset about it, I was just so glad to see Papa. And then I started the journey, and it was nothing what I expected. Well, I have to preface something. I was in this choir. I went to church, Bible school. My parents were fairly religious Presbyterians, but I was shocked when I died how little I had been indoctrinated into organized religion, because when I was there, I didn't have a religious epiphany. I had a spiritual awakening, but organized religion didn't seem to be there, which was a big surprise.
Do you think that it's possible that religion tries to get us to understand at a very basic level what spirituality is all about?
It has to be. Also, remember, organized religion is in a controlled business.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, yes, and remember, people needed a moral compass, a guidance, so they wouldn't kill each other and do terrible things, and there would be some good in the world. So there's a lot to be said for organized religion, but I mean, people may not like what I'm about to say, but I believe through my own experiences that organized religion, well-meaning as it is man-made.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And when you were talking about that feeling that you had as you were being pivoted from the back of your horse that went into the hole and sent you flying towards the ditch with the rocks, and you knew what was going to happen, and at that time you left your body before the point of impact. When I fell off the roof, I had the same experience. Except when I landed, I didn't have a near-death experience. I kind of laughed to myself because all I could think of was that TV commercial where you've got this lady, she falls and she says, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. And,
Oh my gosh.
and I think that different people handle this tragic occurrence or happening different ways. And I thank God that I just had the injuries that I had. It could have been a heck of a lot worse. But I think we all have inside of us the truth. And at pivotal times in our lives, that truth comes to the surface. And we understand that there is so much more that we do not understand. But we do have the ability to bring it in. And when those who have passed on the other side come to greet us and send us back, it's because we have a mission to do. And like when we come back, I'm going to ask you about your mission, but I do have to take a commercial break here, so please stand by. Fascinating Lady Exonation. Our guest is Lura Ketchledge, and her website is luraketch.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and Lura and I will be back on the other side of this break. So whatever you do, don't go away. And you're listening to us on the CanCom Broadcast Network and streaming around the world on classic1220.ca.
Through the veil of reality into the night, Rob McConnell leads the way, a beacon so bright. With over 35 years, he ignites the light. A voice from the north where whispers are bold, stories untold in the echoes of old. Fact meets fiction in this realm of delight.
Past midnight on Gate Street, the signal hums low. The static's alive and the shadows glow. Through the glass of the control room door, something whispers, we've been here before. Old footsteps echo the real sighs. The red on air light flickers and dies. Through the hallway, a chill creeps deep. CKTB never sleeps. Ghosts on Gate Street. Through static and rain, phantoms whisper where the
Exonation, our guest this hour is Lura Ketchledge, and she is the author of the Near-Death Saga book series. She has garnered much acclaim, appearing on CBS, ABC, Fox, and NBC News. Doing her best of writing on her Kentucky horse farm, Lura delights her readers by transporting them back into a time where a ghostly presence launches a flurry of urgent messages cloaked in the mystery murder of a page-turning paranormal romance. Alrighty, let me ask you about your experience on the other side.
Well, I saw my grandfather. We had a personal conversation that I too intimate to.
Certainly, and I appreciate that.
But it was quite painful, quite enlightening. It was family matters. And this, my grandfather had the most blue eyes like you ever could imagine. And he was all white, like translucent, but it was him. And he, didn't have the ravages of cancer, and he was okay. And to know he was okay was wonderful.
Yeah.
And the connection, I guess, was stronger than other family members that were deceased, because later on, when I was 34, my grandfather came and saved my life.
Really?
But he did. But in my near-death experience, my grandfather guided me through a life's review, which was extremely humbling. I didn't handle it well because I was a kid. I was 19. I would handle it very different. I'm 66 now. This was 1979, and I never heard about near-death experience or out-of-body experience or anything. If at all, I went into this with complete ignorance. But it was humbling to see the results of my actions. I hadn't done anything terribly bad. Just, your stupid stuff when you're a kid. Selfishness. But I felt the injury and the hurt that I caused other people as if I were them.
Ooh.
It was like seeing two things in tandem. Myself in the experience and the other person's point of view and feelings. That was a little shocking.
My goodness. But before we go any further, could you tell me about the time when you were 4 when your grandfather saved your life?
I was 34 years old.
Oh, 34. I'm sorry. I thought you were 4 years old. I'm sorry.
No, I was 34 years old. I had autoimmune disease, had gone to the hospital in terrible pain, and they did scans and all kinds of tests. And they just said, listen, you've got an inflamed liver. It's painful. You're going to be fine. It's just going to be a miserable experience for a few months. Don't worry about it. And I went home and I got worse, so I chugged aspirin. And I started sleeping all the time, and my body temperature and my blood pressure dropped a great deal. And one morning I woke up and I'm really not feeling good. And literally my grandfather walked through my bedroom door in living color. He sat on my bed. I was shocked. I was speechless. I was grateful to see him. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, am I dead? And then he put his hand over my abdomen and said, your spleen. And as soon as I was able to, chirp out a response, react emotionally, he dissolved. And it was excruciating to lose him. He just disappeared. So I got up and I walked into the family room, and my mother was in the kitchen, and I was at her house. She was a registered nurse, and I was very ill. And I told her what happened, and I described the flannel shirt and exactly down to the false button that he had on his pants with his pleated pants. And my mother remembered that outfit that he had, and he'd had in 1960s. So I didn't know what to do about it. I just asked, I said to my mom, where is your spleen? I had no idea. I don't know anatomy. I'm not a medical person. I didn't know what to do. But a couple of days later, I heard someone, a female voice, whisper in my ear, spleen, spleen. And then I knew, like I got a shot of adrenaline and information, and I knew wherever my spleen was in my body, it better come out or I'm not gonna be here. I went and had a candid conversation with my doctor, and he said, listen, we can't run these tests again. Your insurance will pay for it. We've got no reason to take out your spleen. But he hesitated, and he said to me, but I told him what happened. I was pretty honest, and I didn't care if he believed me or didn't, or thought I was a wackadoo. That was okay. This was life or death. He said, I'm going to write you the physician's order to get the splenectomy, because I have heard things similar to this occasionally in my practice, and I'm not going to take the chance. So when I woke up after the surgery, and I wondered if anybody had done me a favor because it was horrible. My spleen had imploded, and I had the size of a man's hand, the size of blood clot, that size, dangling connected to my spleen. So a few hours, a few days, one thump on the abdomen, and that would have been all she wrote. So my grandfather loved me enough to come back and save my life. I say that's pretty wonderful to know that I'm still loved and that the connection never fades.
Well, I thank your grandfather, because what he did was he saved you, and here you are today doing the great work you're doing. You opened the door for many people who've had near-death experiences. You've talked about it, and you've made them aware that they're not alone, and no, they're not wackadoodles, that what they have experienced, many other people around the world have experienced. So, thanks to your grandfather, and thank you for being so honest and upfront and sharing this information.
Well, Rob, I believe I'm a bit of a coward, because I had my near-death experience at 19. I did not have the courage to speak about it until I got in my 50s. I guess you lose the embarrassment gene with age, but I didn't talk about it because I didn't want to be shamed or ridiculed. I was sort of in the closet.
Wow.
And but I had so many strange psychic experiences after my near-death experience that I wove them into my books, and I just thought, this is my truth, this is my legacy. And I talked about it publicly because there was nobody for me to hear all those years in the beginning, in my 20s. I didn't have anybody that this had happened to, that, I felt so isolated and alone. I thought, well, if my experience helps one person, I've done a good deed.
Doing this show now for 35 years, I remember going back and remembering what the topics were. And we talked vaguely about near-death experiences back then. But over the years, they became more and more popular, and more people were talking about it, and more people were sharing their experiences. And then we had members of the medical community who finally came out and talked about near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences. And what was strange, weird, and bizarre 35 years ago is mainstream now.
Yeah, I guess I had my accident. I was born at the wrong time. I don't know, but
I think you were born. I believe everybody's born at the right time, and you decided to share your experience at the right time. I don't know what part of your life cycle, script was shared when you were supposed to tell about it, but I believe everything happens for a reason. And
yes,
what you've done over the years by sharing your experiences, that you've opened up a lot of eyes and hearts to what is on the other side, or if it is on the other side, because that's how we could only explain it. So don't think negatively about when you did it. You did it when you were supposed to do it. And look at all the people that you've helped over the years.
I hope so. I get some interesting emails, and did this make me a better person? Probably not. I'm just more aware. But I do have to say it was humbling. I live my life with gratitude every single day. I'm more direct and sincere because of it. And I feel so blessed that I don't have that fear of the unknown, because experiencing something, it's not a belief, it's a known fact to me.
Well, it's known fact to a million people around the world as well, my dear. So after you met your grandfather on the other side, and how did you feel? Did you want to come back, or was it your grandfather's
No.
idea that said you have to go back?
Oh, I did not want to come back.
No way.
I did not want to come back. I had a life's review. I was told that I would have a very hard life when I came back. Nobody was exaggerating. I was shown these different steps, but into the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing that I was prepared for. I don't like the idea of reincarnation, but I believe it's a fact. I did make it to source, which was just, it blew my mind, because it wasn't what I thought it was. It was so much better. And to be at a place where you want for nothing, where it's just love, wrapped in a sea of love, floating in a sea of love. It was very difficult to come back, and I didn't have a choice about it. I wasn't a good sport. And when I was resuscitated and awoke, I didn't have kind thoughts. I was pretty ticked off, upset. I tried to talk to the doctor in the emergency room when I got there, and I was shamed and asked if I had taken drugs. And it kind of went downhill for me for a while, because I had gotten physically ill a couple of months later, and I had a hard time coping. I pulled it together, but eventually, but I was a lost soul for a while.
All right, stand by. We've got to take our break at the bottom of the half hour. Fascinating story with a fascinating lady. Lura Ketchledge is my not only my guest this hour, but a good friend. And if you'd like to find out more about Lura, visit her website. Lura, that's Lura Ketch, KETCH.com. We'll both be back on the other side of this break. And you're listening to us on the CanCom Broadcast Network here in Canada and around the world. And of course, our good friends at Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, not FM, AM, here in St. Catharines. Stream us around the world on classic1220.ca.
Some days I walk, some days I crawl, some days I can't feel much at all. My body's a maze that I try to read. Every step forward, a silent need. But I won't let this break who I am. I've learned how to fight, learned how to stand. I may fall, but still I rise. Through the pain, through the tears in my eyes. This road is long, but it's mine to tread. With every sunrise, I lift my head. I won't be defined by what I can't do. Still I rise, and I always will too.
Exonation, Lura Ketchledge is our special guest this hour, and we were talking about your near-death experience. And you didn't want to come back. It had been a place that I guess nobody has ever put into proper words.
Well, it was so hard to come back, because I felt I was home.
Oh,
I
geez.
felt I belonged.
Mm-hmm.
I felt free of all the worries that you have in physical reality. There's no taxes there. That's what I always say as a joke. And I knew I was going to have a hard life because I'd been told it was going to be hard. I was on my way back. My grandfather was slipping out of my view, and there were so many epiphanies and so much more that I understood, and it felt like that knowledge was being erased or taken from me. And I came back knowing less, knowing that I had experienced more. And I said to my grandfather, this has been so long. And I really couldn't have been dead more than like 2 or 3 minutes, or not breathing for 2 or 3 minutes. It really wasn't that long in physical reality time, but it seemed like I'd learned so much, and those lessons were being taken from me as I returned. So I looked around the field as I came back into my body. And I said, this is not reality. And it took me about 12 hours to really calm down and come to grips with things.
When you calmed down and you, like you said, came to grips with things, how did you feel? What did you realize that you had never realized before?
That there's a continuation of existence after death. That I came back to a place where my grandfather was not. Mm-hmm. How was I going to tell his wife, my grandmother, what had happened? I eventually told her, but not right away. And then I thought, what is my purpose? Because stuff didn't mean a whole lot. Possessions, money, all the things that you think you should want growing up, that you're programmed to want, didn't seem to be very relevant or very important. You can't be poor and happy. You've got to have your basics. But my core values had shifted, and my emotions being a teenager didn't match. So I had a harder time. I kept it in. I tried to tell the doctor in the emergency room. I even went to a therapist who said, are you having a pity party because you broke your nose?
Oh my God.
So I really shut down for a couple of years. Luckily, I went to a therapist in New York City when I was 25, because in New York, who isn't in therapy? Anyways. And she said, read Robert Monroe's books. You get a grasp of things. Don't dwell on it, but just have a greater understanding and live your life. Best advice a person could give me. And I did. I talked it over with my sister, my grandmother, my mom, but not much more. I kept it really private because my core value was not what it was the day before the accident, thankfully.
Do you think that, first of all, as you and I were talking before, I said I don't believe anything is a coincidence. I believe everything happens for a reason when it's supposed to happen. Do you think that the accident you had when you had and that near-death experience kind of set your life lesson and your life mission into progress?
It set me right. It was the greatest gift I've ever been given. I do it again. I didn't really appreciate the broken nose and getting bashed. My body was pretty banged up. Yeah. But I didn't come out permanently injured. I came out a different person. And by 25, it really had settled in. I understood it. I had some, quote, paranormal experiences. I think you come back, not all of you comes back, because part of you, it's like you leave your heart there in many ways. I felt my values and my core self was just awakened, and it was a great gift that I had the accident. It was very humbling, of course, and I think that it did set my course. I never would have gone the direction like with the books or the movie I've done or anything like that if I hadn't had this awakening, spiritual awakening.
What kind of paranormal experiences have you had since your experience, awakening?
I was just a very middle class, teenager one day, and then After the NDE, some things started happening, not right away. Like I had a friend that passed away, an acquaintance really, and came to me after they died, and I was very shocked. I didn't know what it was. It came into my bedroom as the shape of like an orb, a soul that I could actually have a connection with and feel. Can communicate with. I had to go to my therapist and talk about that one a lot. And sadly, I had this wonderful aunt, Evelyn, that was just absolutely adorable. She was my great aunt, and she'd been sick in the nursing home for a long time. So I was at a relative's, and she came to see me. Now, I did not know that she had passed away. I did not know who had died, but she came in the room. I got up, jumped up. I was so startled. Thankfully, I was had a nightgown on. I ran through the house. I was so scared. I was shaking because I had been so shocked. So I called my sister the next morning and I said, okay, who in the family died? Evelyn had died. And then I felt very ashamed for getting up and running. Things like that had started to happen, quirky things. If you have some very slight paranormal or abilities, it's random, uncontrolled. It just happens in the oddest times, and when you want it to happen, it never does. And when it does, the message comes in sideways. I've just kind of given up, you know. But I think it really led to me being able to have a shared death experience when my father died in 2017.
Do you fear death now?
No, I hope it doesn't hurt on the way out. That's what I fear. And I hope I can accomplish the things I need to do before I pass. But and when I do pass, it's going to be a relief. Life's been hard, and the afterlife is a pretty exciting place to go.
Tell me about the experience you had after your dad passed.
Well, it was as my father was dying. I was both of my parents' caregiver for 5 years. My mother died of stage 4 cancer.
God bless her.
Heartbreaking, just
Yes.
heartbreaking. And then I was taking care of my father for several years before he passed. And he was kind of a gruff guy, but we got really close. I said, do you want me to explain some things that'll happen? You know, we were preparing for his death with hospice. And nope, don't want to hear it. Nope. And I said, I respect that. But the night or the morning that he passed, Rob, this was very unexpected. I'd been up for like two or three nights with him, administering morphine. Luckily, the hospice nurse came to give me a break. At about 5 o'clock in the morning, I said to her, I've just got to lay down. Oh, I couldn't keep my eyes open. And I went upstairs and I fell asleep. And then all of a sudden, Rob, I was not in my room. I was in a car with my dad, and it was like black and white, no color, devoid of color. And we were driving, and he was driving. And I was in my grandfather's old car that I had not seen since 1964. I even forgot that he gave it to mom and dad. So I'm in this old car, and I'm looking at it and all the details, and it's hitting me. Oh my God, I'm in Grandpa's car. I can't believe I'm in Grandpa's car. And then I looked at my dad, and he wasn't sick. He was a lot younger. He looked good. And we stopped the car, and I got out, and I knew that this was a paranormal experience. It was very real. My vision was much better than in real life, no glasses. And my father picked up this, like, it looked like the phone book, but it wasn't a phone book. It was like a stack of papers. And he said he's canceling his life. And I looked at him, I said, you can't do that. I can't be alone. I'm not ready. And I kind of freaked. And he's like saying, it's going to be okay. And he ripped the stack of papers. And all of a sudden, I felt this thud like, and I'm back and sitting up in the bed, and I hear him doing that horrible gasping breathing that people do at end of life,
Yes.
that chain stoked breathing. And I run downstairs and like a bat out of hell, and he died in my arms. And he had given me this shared death experience. I didn't even know that that could happen, to tell me he was okay. What a great gift.
It truly is. It truly is. You and I have to take our final break, but before we go, where are your books available?
Well, they're all over, but on Amazon, I have audiobook, Kindle, the Near Death Saga. The first book is Near Death Connection. You can start with that if you're interested in a paranormal romance with a lot of action. And I explain the afterlife in a fictional story because that was my way to tell everybody exactly step by step what happens when you die and the after effects of near-death experience. And thank you so much for letting me come on your show.
Oh, we're not finished yet. We have one more segment.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to make sure people were ready and that they were going to get their pencil and paper out so that when we told them again where to go for your books, they'll be ready this time. Lura, stand by, and X-Zone, if you'd like to find out more about my guest this hour, LuraKetch.com. That's LuraKetch.com. This is the X-Zone on the CanCom Broadcast Network, streaming on Classic 1220 CFAJ here in St. Catharines. The stream is classic1220.ca. Don't go away.
Where the mist rolls in from the river's bend, and the willow weeps for the long dead man. Cannon smoke and musket cries still echo under haunted skies. In the shadows by Queenston's hill, you can hear the marchers still. Drums of doom and bayonets gleam, awakening soldiers from their dream. They rise from the ground when the moon turns pale, whispering names on a cold night's gale. Through the streets of Niagara on the lake they ride, ghostly eyes burning from the other side. Hear their boots on the
And welcome back, everyone. Lura Ketchledge is my special guest. And Lura, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's always a great pleasure talking to you. And I wish you continued success with your writing and the messages that you're getting out there to the people who have lost loved ones, who are mourning for the loved ones, that they are not as fortunate as so many people are who have the ability to make that connection with the loved ones on the other side. So thank you for all you do.
Oh, it's just been wonderful to be on your show, and thank you for the privilege of having me.
Do you think everyone has the ability to make that connection with the other side?
I think it's possible. I think some people have more, almost like a genetic predisposition, like it ran in my grandmother's family. Therefore, some people aren't just going to have it. If you have a near-death experience, I think you've got more of an aptitude, but other people that have had it, it's just so random. It's hard to say.
Tell us about the TV shows you've been on, expressing your experiences that you've had.
I've been on My Ghost Story. That was a television show over 10 years ago. And I'm the only guest to be invited back to My Ghost Story Caught on Camera, which led me after that to Paranormal Night Shift, which was another reality show to recount my experiences. I had such well documented paranormal evidence taken by various ghost hunters that came out to my farm with Class A EVPs. You could see orbs in the video. So it was all submitted, and some of the stories and the things that had happened to me. And they had me on the shows, which was very nice.
When you sit down to write, do you think any of the writing that you put down on paper is channeled from the other side?
I have to really think that, because I didn't go to school for this. I was not a seasoned author that just decided to write books, but I sat down and I just knew how to do it. I didn't do it very fast. I misspelled a lot. I needed an editor, but I just knew what to do. And sometimes when I'm writing, I felt like I've done it before. I just wanted to express what had happened to me, how things work, the questions, the numerous questions people have. And this is my experience and kind of my truth. And it was really cathartic to get it out, to write about near-death experience, paranormal encounters, having someone come back and touch your life that you had loved so much and lost, and then they turn around and save your life, like my grandfather. And I touched on the subject of reincarnation. I've got a good general idea how it works. I don't really like the idea, but I think it's a reality. And so I was able to get my truth out.
You seem to have a different opinion of reincarnation that I'm used to. So could you please explain your take on reincarnation?
All right. To put it simply,
okay,
this is like the footnotes. When a soul comes into physical reality, you're here to learn different various lessons, numerous lessons. You can't do that all in one lifetime. I believe that the soul fractures into personalities, and the personalities go into different times in history. Some are born in the 1700s or the 1800s or now or in the future. And I believe, how does it really, as it sounds, that everything happens at once. Linear time is almost an illusion. It's true for us because we're in physical reality, but I think that you go into these lives and you learn these lessons, and then eventually, you return to, I guess you return to soul or the source, but you're a villain in one life. You're the hero in another life. You're poor in one life. You're the doctor that saves lives in another. There's all these roles that we play. So we've been the good guys and the bad guys in these lives, and there's a lesson to learn, and we bring that all together in source. And somehow there is a rhyme and reason to it that is incomprehensible to the human mind.
Do you believe, well, it's obvious that you believe that we're more than just a physical being.
Yes.
How would you define what you believe we are?
We are souls, individuals that are going through physical reality in order to learn lessons. That we're like tourists going through Disney World, picking up all these lessons, like you're taking Mr. Toad's wild ride through life, and then you come out the other side and you go back to your source.
But if we're doing this, if we're doing all these different lives to learn, where is all this information going?
Well, it's very important in physical reality. Being a human being, I think, is a gift, an opportunity to learn. I'm not that smart of a gal. This is just really what I've grasped with my different experiences. But it's valuable, the lessons that you learn. And they're not like things that are really important. I remember one time, I helped this kid that was lost. And I helped her find her way home. And I did this as a teenager, and I'd forgotten about it. But in my life's review, that was really a big thing. What matters is the opportunity to learn, to better ourselves, to stretch, to grow. Where do we take it? I don't know what the next junction is, because I only got so far in my near-death experience. I got to where, the souls, my past lives, or my personalities all assembled. I didn't go past that. So I don't know.
Do you think it's possible that young lady that you helped who was lost was actually someone sent to see how you would react, and that you were actually being tested?
I never really thought about that as a possibility. It could be. I think your good deeds. I mean, I'm not a goody two shoes. I've got a potty mouth and a bad temper at times, but I try to be a good person. I try to basically do no harm. I do believe it is essential that you try to help other people, or you don't hinder them. Maybe she was put in front of me for me to do something good. I don't know. It's a really, really strong possibility.
Do you believe humanity is going through a larger shift in awareness in these days?
People are people, and we are our own worst enemies in many ways. We are wonderful, exquisite souls that are, physical reality is basically like, bumper car. I mean, it's carnage. It's pretty scary. I think we've got more information out there, so people are hearing things, and there's more education. But I don't think people have basically changed. But having information and people understanding about near-death experience and the responsibility that comes with being a human being, trying to be a good person or a decent person, I think the word's out there more, and I think that is a good shift. But will it last? I don't know.
Besides the time that you had your near-death experience and the experience that you had the night of your dad's passing, have you had any reoccurring visits from your dad or your grandfather since then?
Oh yeah. I was able to, when I was in Paris. This is 1985, and my grandmother was very, very ill, and she was dying of a brain tumor, and I was on vacation, and my grandfather came to me and talked to me and held my hand. And it's so funny, when you are a child, an adult's hand feels huge. But as a grown woman, putting a hand, like an astral hand, a non-physical hand in his, I commented, I told my mom, she goes, yeah, my dad had really large hands. And I got to talk to him, and I was basically the messenger to talk to my grandmother and tell her certain things before she died. And she took a lot of comfort in that. When I came to her nursing home, I got off the flight and booked another flight to go to Syracuse to see my grandmother, and sat down and talked to her, and it really helped her. So I was the messenger, and I was glad to be of service. It's pretty emotional stuff.
Lura, we have to say so long in a very few minutes, so please let our listeners know your website and, once again, where to get your books.
My website is luraketch.com, luraketch.com. It has links to my book series, The Near-Death Saga, Near-Death Connection, Throwaway Horses, Reincarnation Connection. You can purchase them on Amazon, or you can just go to Barnes & Noble. They're all over the internet, and you can listen. The audiobooks are really the best. And it's been great being on this show.
Laura, it's been great for us too. Please take care of yourself, and I look forward to the next time you join us back here in the X Zone. So until then, my friend, always the best, and keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light.
Thank you.
X Zone Nation, I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on most of our affiliates, but there are those affiliates who only carry us for 2 hours. Don't go away. And always, always believe in the impossible. Anything is possible if you believe, because belief is the strongest power in the universe. Don't go away.
The streets of Niagara, on the lake they ride, ghostly eyes burning from the other side. Hear their boots on the cobblestone floor, the dead